Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Hurricane Watch team is here with a tropical weather update talking about Invest 98S. That's going to be a potentially major cyclone for portions of western and northwestern Australia. Let's get right into the video. Alright, so here we go. Invest 98S. These are the latest stats. As you can see here, we're dealing with, it's about 35 miles an hour. It's currently a tropical depression. Air pressure about 1,004 millibars. So that's still relatively high. Really, anything below 995 is when we start seeing a pretty more decent developing tropical system. And the lower that number is, the more intense, the more powerful that storm is. For reference, the average air pressure at sea level is about 1,013 millibars, and some of the strongest storms, like Typhoon Tip in 1979, had an air pressure of 870 millibars. So, just a reference of where this is at. It's on the much more higher side of the air pressure scale. It is currently moving to the southeast at around 1 knots, about 2 miles per hour. And it is currently located at 9.1 degrees south, 130.7 degrees east. For reference, that is just off the coast of northwestern Australia. So in terms of impacts across areas of northwestern Australia, for the Drydale River, there's a 1 out of 10. So again, we do a scale of 1 out of 10, 1 being the lowest amount of impacts, 10 being the most extreme and life-threatening impacts. Drydale River, a 1, a light. Derby, Australia, 2 out of 10. Broome, Australia, a 2 out of 10. We got 80 Mile Beach there, a 1. And then we're also looking at Port Hedland, a 1 out of 10. So areas right now have a very low chance of having any kind of life-threatening and dangerous conditions right now in the next 5 days. However, we do expect this number to go up significantly as the storm begins to intensify much more. Right now, the biggest impacts within the next 5 days are just going to be some of the outer bands from Invest 98S impacting northwestern Australia. Heavy rain, gusty winds. But the biggest impact is going to be the heavy rain, possibly some flooding, and the rip currents that are going to be affecting the beaches. So if you are going to the beach, make sure you're staying out of the water and looking for this beach signs. You know, they're going to have flags out letting you know there's going to be, you're going to definitely hear this on the news, and they're going to definitely be talking about beach safety when you're going to the beach in this portion of Australia. Multi-model comparison diagnostics. As you can see, the intensity is a little bit concerning. As you can see, right now it's relatively low. We do expect it to intensify quite a bit. As it is expected to intensify there. As you can see, it is expected to intensify upwards of 130, maybe even reaching as high as 140 knots. That's about anywhere from 150 to about 160, 165 miles per hour. That's a Category 5 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Deep shear, so this is the shear that is cutting across and keeping the storm from developing, is going to be decreasing over the next several days. And as that occurs, we're going to see the storm intensify a little bit more. Sea surface temperatures are going to be steadily increasing throughout the lifetime of this system. Could be reaching temperatures upwards of 31.5 degrees Celsius. That's over 88 degrees Fahrenheit. Mid-level humidity stays at 80 or above 80%. It does start to dip off, but even there, still at around 60% humidity in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, which is still relatively high. So really, wind shear does come down a lot, but it's still going to be dealing with some wind shear for quite some time until then. Looking at the GFS forecast over the next 5 days, as you can see, the storm rapidly intensifies This is well before it makes landfall still. So even as a storm is developing off the coast of northwestern Australia, I do still expect to see major impacts like heavy rain, outer rain bands, and even as this is approaching, we could even see a brief tornado or two approaching the coast. Maybe seeing a few water spouts off the coast. Also be seeing some storm surge, and some of these bigger storms, they produce some pretty big swells, and especially as this makes its way towards the coast of northwestern and western Australia, we could be dealing with major waves and definitely some storm surge, tornadoes, heavy rain, and especially very strong damaging winds, if depending on just how strong this is going to be when it makes landfall. Storm surge, inland flooding, saltwater flooding, tornadoes. Even at times, you're going to have cloud ground lightning from the storm, depending on how convective some of these outer rain bands are going to be. Again, very strong winds, big storm surges very likely with this. We're going to have major impacts to land, life, and property as this does become more intense and begins to develop more as it makes its way towards the western and northwestern coast of Australia. Looking at the GFS models over the next 5 days, again, a majority of the heavy rain, in terms of the most rain produced by this storm, is going to be well off the coast of Australia. However, we do get some of these outer bands just right along the immediate coastline, seeing upwards of, could be seeing upwards of 1 to 150 millimeters of rain over the next 5 days. And this is really mainly along the immediate coastline. But I do believe that as the storm begins to get closer, we could see that be closer to 2 to 300 millimeters and possibly upwards of 500 millimeters. So I do think lots of flooding is going to be possible with this. Definitely right at the area where it's going to make landfall in northwestern Australia. The HWRF model, or the HWRF, the high resolution forecast model over the next 126 hours, definitely intensifying there, as you can see, getting down to as low as like 909 millibars. For reference, Hurricane Maria was a 908 millibar hurricane when it made land at its peak intensity, and that was at 175 miles an hour. It weakened a little bit, fortunately, before it made landfall in Puerto Rico with winds of 155 miles an hour and absolutely decimated the entire island of Puerto Rico, and they are still recovering to this day. That hurricane happened in September of 2017. Ensemble tracks, as you can see, a lot of it is really showing. Yesterday we're seeing 979 millibars for an average of the air pressure upon landfall. That number has dropped to 974. So this storm is definitely shows that it's going to be intensifying for sure. And then you can even see here, it moves and then it kind of just stays in this area. It gives me memories of what we had with Harvey here in southeast Texas in August of 2017, when that storm made landfall there in Rockport, Texas, with 130 mile an hour winds. We could also see something very similar to this, as it may just sort of meander in that area as high pressure kind of traps it in that portion of northwestern Australia. A big problem is going to be it's going to be pulling in moisture from this from the extreme southeast Indian Ocean, and could be just funneling in moisture in northwestern Australia, causing a huge amount of flooding, unfortunately, for that area. Another thing that I'm closely monitoring are some of these purples. That we're seeing a lot of dark reds, purples, and if you look, that's all the way down here. That's 950, 940, 930 millibars right in this area down there. If we do start to see that, that could be a sign that we see a little bit more intense storminess. So we could be seeing 970, 960. Some of the models now showing 940, 930, 920, even as low as around 910 millibars. The other day, we saw the 882 millibars is what the GFS was showing with this storm. However, they have gone a little bit better, now only showing 901 millibars, which is still a Category 5 hurricane, cyclone, or typhoon, whichever. Ensemble tracks, again, this is the GEPS, not as intense, but we could see anywhere from 975 to 980 millibars, not as strong, but we're still going to be seeing this storm. You see it makes landfall, and then it just kind of makes a little bit of a U-turn right there. So again, the biggest threats with these storms, every single time storm makes landfall, the biggest life-threatening thing is going to be water. Water is what kills the most. So get above water. If you can get above that water, you will survive. The higher up you go, again, the stronger those winds are going to be. The lower you are, there's going to be the bigger chance of that storm surge coming in. and just wiping you out. And if you have that chance and you have the ability to and you have the means to, please evacuate before the storm does intensify and make landfall there in northwestern Australia. I do want to thank our supporters, Ronald, Donna. We do have another random person supporter, so we do appreciate everyone supporting us. Again, upwards of now we're doing about $10 a month, $10, $11 a month right now. So we do heavily appreciate the support that we have been getting from everybody. So if you want, links will be down in the description. Follow us on Patreon. We post there almost every single day. Follow us on Twitter. Like, subscribe, and share on YouTube. Support us for as little as just $1 a month on Patreon. Join our Discord server. All these links are going to be down in the description of this video. Thank you for watching. That is going to be it. This has been the Hurricane Watch Team, your source for cyclone information. Thank you for watching. As always, peace out.